here we are. It's a beautiful week. Lucas, at the end of this week, it's going to be summer, believe it or not.
You know, I was really excited for the summertime, Will. I hear that the sunshine, kills the coronavirus, so I was excited to spend a lot of time outside with my friends, maybe go to the Halifax Common. But unfortunately, I'm a little bit agoraphobic because of all the squirrels out and about. I'm going to be staying inside, the blackout curtains drawn, because boy howdy, do those little rodents ever scare the pants off of me.
I completely feel you there. This was certainly not a great week to be living near a wooded area such as I do. So I'm kind of looking over my shoulder into the balcony, making sure. Actually, it's funny. I only just thought of this now. Jenna, my wife, recently bought a bird feeder. She's been kind of looking to get into some more niche interests now that we're kind of stuck inside more often than not. And she got a specific one where it is weighted so that when a bird perches on it, it can eat the bird seed. But when a squirrel perches on it, it will close shut.
Oh, wow. No food for the squirrels, no equal opportunity. Get the hell... I was going to say, that was actually going to be my first thing, was when you said you bought a bird feeder. More like squirrel feeder, because that's those little mangy mongrels love stealing that dang feed. Well, there's really two types of people in the world. I too have taken up a new hobby, given the quarantine and the sun is out and it's like, geez, like we can't go to bars anymore. What am I going to do with myself? I've started trying to skateboard. I bought a skateboard a couple of weeks ago. Yes. I'm not very good. Okay. I can barely push. I still have to get the handle of like riding around and pushing and basic stuff, but I can kind of hit an ollie. Like once every, I used to be once every 10 times. Now it's like once every 4 times. I could pretty much hit an ollie, which is good.
It seems like this is probably an evolution that I would have thought had already happened in your life. I figured that at a younger age, Lucas Mancini might have been more of a skateboarder, but it's only recently that you've been taking this up.
No, yeah, well, see, when I was a kid, I just wanted to play video games. I didn't want to go outside at all. And then when I got older and I was like, I want to skateboard, everybody who's skateboarding when they're 17 has already been skateboarding since they were 12, or they've decided they're never going to do it. So there was no one at my level. But a bunch of people in my neighborhood have, like I keep meeting these people that are like our age, where it's like adult skateboard club where we're all starting as beginners. And it's like, okay, this is like nice. There's like a group of us that are all terrible, to all learn together. So yeah, new hobby. Hopefully I stick with it, just as I hope that, Jenna sees all sorts of crazy birds, a chickadee, a blue jay, the whole 9 yards.
The best part is that the birds always come when she's napping, so then she'll wake up from her nap and I'll be like, sorry, you missed the blue jay. So that's it's been very consistent. They always know when she's asleep. So fulfilling the promise that Tony Hawk's Pro Skater made in the sweet days of our youth. Now Lucas is on a skateboard. Welcome to Elwood City Limits. It's the Episodic Arthur podcast. My name's Will Young, and the guy there on 4 wheels is Lucas Mancini.
Hello.
And alas, I can't skateboard, I can't bike, I can't do any of that stuff. I have terrible balance. Plus, I can't bike because the seat is just really uncomfortable for me to seat in as a gentleman of extra carriage.
You need one of those lowrider ones, where it's like a full-on, like, basically chair. You know what I'm talking about? Where you got the really tall handlebars.
I've always wanted to ride around in those. I know that they have like those adult tricycles sometimes. Like I used to work at a place that had them, and I always wanted to ride one, but there's never an appropriate time.
I always wanted to ride in one of those like motorcycle sidecars, like Rocky and Bullwinkle style.
Yes.
You never see those.
No, rarely. You only do with like the vintage motorcycles, the ones that are like on the highway or in like a motor show or something. You never really see them in action. We've got quite an interesting episode to talk about today, and we've also got the words from a special guest near the end of it. But of course, we always like to start off an episode of ECL with some emails. ElwoodCityLimits@gmail.com. We've got a few this week, and most of them are pretty fun. But just want to say something really quickly. I want to thank everybody for their responses to what we had to say about what's been going on lately outside with protests and Black Lives Matter and all that kind of stuff. We did get one email about it, and it's a good one. It's from longtime listener Kelsey, who is very upset about the racial divide in her state of Minnesota. People not from my state won't notice that until they live here, and I feel like it's time to end. I've been so disappointed in my state for a long time, and she wanted to say Black Lives Matter, and we appreciate that, and I think me and Lucas are in tandem when we say the work is nowhere near done yet, and we, I feel, have done the bare minimum, and we're continuing to do as much as we can, but more behind the scenes, and we encourage you to do the same as well. And yes, Black Lives Matter.
Of course, and thank you for writing in, and yeah, I concur, Will. I think you never feel like you're doing enough, right? Like, so I try as I can. We can always do more, but it's always nice to receive emails like that.
So let's move on here from Lion Dogs ZXA, one of our patrons. Dear Lucas and that one other guy I forgot the name of.
Oh my goodness, the slander. I'm surprised you're reading this email. The Will slander, I'm not here for it.
Yeah.
What is that?
I mean, well, let's see how much of this email I really read.
Yeah, dear Lucas, the guy I forgot the name of. This is the thing. You don't make fun of your waiter. You're not rude to your waiter because they control your food. Don't be rude to the guy that reads the emails because he controls the email.
Congrats on reaching Season 10. Thank you. I should probably apologize for giving your hopes up on Season 9. So it was your fault. To avoid making that same mistake, I'll say that Season 10 of Arthur sure is a 10-episode season of the children's show Arthur. Good. Very placid, very middle of the road. I like it. No expectations. It also sure does include episodes such as Operation DW, The Squirrels, What's Cooking, Binky vs. Binky, and other episodes that are indeed part of the Arthur television series. I'm sure you'll think these episodes are animated pieces of content. In all seriousness, you asked the viewers to give our favorite episodes of the season. So at number 5, he's got Buster the Mythmaker. Number 4, Lights, Camera, Opera. Number 3, Breezy Listening Blues. Number 2, The Law of the Jungle Gym. A bit higher than me, but I think, Lucas, that was on your top 5.
For sure.
A couple of honorable mentions. Francine's Big Top, It Came From Beyond, and Arthur Makes Waves. And number 1, Tipping the Scales. I love a good team story where we see our cast train for the grand event, growing as better people in the process, and this episode scratches that itch. It also benefits from the returning Dr. Fugue and the development of the children experience under him, making it my number 1 for the season. Okay, I was confusing it with Arthur Weighs In. So, yes, I like that one too. One more thing, in celebration of reaching Season 10, I'd like for both of you to list your top 10 favorite Arthur episodes. Okay, maybe some. We need to really think about that one. That what, that might be fun to do at the end of this season. Maybe. We can add that to the Season 10 recap.
Episodes 1 through 9, Grandpa Dave's Country Farm. And then the number 10 is the family reunion episode we talk about every single episode with Cousin Mo. Right. And that's basically that's the list.
I just get the feeling that it's going to be a lot of Season 1 episodes for me at least because I'm an old man. Stay safe and Black Lives Matter from Lion Dogs ZXA. Let's go now to another one of our patrons. And of course, you don't have to be a patron to email, but we do appreciate hearing from all sides. Hello, Will and Lucas, from Christine. I gasped out loud when I heard Will mention butter sandwiches in the last podcast. I totally thought it was something only my mom did. My mom would also make me butter sandwiches, but I remember quite distinctively. 2 slices of Wonder Bread with the crust cut off with butter and sugar in the middle.
I've heard of this. See, I think I even talked about this when you were bringing up the butter sandwiches, that I've heard of people adding sugar, and then it's more of like a dessert flair.
I could not tell you the last time I had one, and low-key cringe just thinking about it. It's weird how our tastes evolve as we grow up. When I was young, I remember sitting at the dinner table as my mom made salad rolls, and I snacked on the rice paper. These days, the taste and texture of rice paper isn't very appealing to me, and I can't believe I used to eat it plain. So, Lucas, I did actually see my mother recently.
Okay, I was gonna ask, did you remember? Because this was 2 weeks ago for the listeners that missed the episode where we talked about Will's, dare I say, mistreatment as a child and being force-fed butter sandwiches. The big question was, were they even butter sandwiches at all, or were they actually margarine sandwiches? But
So I set this up for my mother to kind of give me an out, because of course parents lie to their kids all the time, and there's no cap on that. There's no age cap on that.
Parents be lying to their kids, no cap.
So I said it had to have been margarine, right? You made it with margarine, right? And she looked at me and she said, sometimes. Other times, I think I just use butter. So
that's so much worse than just answering one or the other. Just keep you on your toes.
As I play my stomach there, it all begins to come together. The turkey was fattened from a young age.
I hope I get the butter sandwich today. I don't want the margarine sandwich.
So I did answer your question, and it was a little bit shocking, if I can be honest.
And then sometimes you got base cell 70-30. Like, who knows?
What is that?
Base cell 70-30 is 70% margarine. Wait, 70% butter, 30% margarine? Now I gotta look.
Oh,
this
but
up.
it's a mixture.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, it's a combination.
I see. Just not totally familiar with it. Christine continues. Also reminiscing about school lunches brought back a particularly interesting memory where my mom actually got in trouble because of what she packed me for lunch. She got called into a meeting with my first grade teacher and was lectured about nutritionally balanced meals because my teacher had seen me eating a slice of cake the size of a $5 bill for lunch and nothing else. I actually recently asked my mom about this, and her only explanation was that school in Vietnam is a lot different than school in Canada. Like, I don't think either one of my parents ever packed a lunch when they were in school. They would either eat what the school provided or order lunch from a street vendor. I feel like when you're a child of an immigrant, there's some underlying frustration in learning about Western culture in tandem with your parents, as opposed to just being able to mirror the actions of your parents. Do either of you have any memorable school lunches? Probably the most memorable for me is at my elementary school. I think it was grade 3 and onward. We got to do pizza orders.
Ooh,
so
was okay. So, I too had the pizza program at my elementary school. Were yours in partnership with Little Caesars?
they were.
Pizza. Okay, so you were getting that Little Caesars pizza. Yeah, same here. And that was a fond memory. There was the Milk Club. There was the Cookie Club. Do you remember all those things?
I don't think we had those in particular.
Okay. The Milk Club's weird. It's like you're eating a full meal. You're eating pizza and milk at 10 a.m.? Like 10:15 a.m.? No. What's going on with that?
They want to give the janitor something to think about over the weekend.
Oh, God.
Milk and Cookie Club for life.
Oh, man. No, my parents, like, my memory of being a child, this is going to sound really bad, but it's not what it sounds like, but my memories of being a little kid in elementary school was just being hungry all the time. Not because my parents were making me go hungry or anything. I was well fed. It's just that, like, I would have, like, a healthy sandwich and, like, you know, some carrots and some dip or whatever, and I would always just be desperate to trade my meal for, like, Chippies, but I would never get any Chippies.
You're a little jughead boy. You always wanted to eat everything.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I just got to eat my healthy sandwich, my yogurt.
Oh, like my mom always packed me a sandwich, a juice box, and then like we would cycle in and out of desserts. So like all of the fruit roll-ups, fruit by the foot, so delicious, all of those gummy candies, Gushers.
Was never allowed.
Dunkaroos.
Had to trade off to get. I was that kid. Be like, can I have a Gusher, please?
What would you trade for him if you didn't have something of equal or greater sweet? Acts of service.
No, I don't remember. I think it was just like sheer annoying, like just being as annoying as possible.
Yes.
To get people
Classic.
It's the same way you would get to play the Game Boy Advance whenever there was a field trip and some kid brought their Game Boy Advance. Be like, can I get a try?
Yeah. Right. I you know what? That totally tracks. I totally see that. To connect this to a point Lucas made in the latest episode, when my mom got in trouble with my teacher, she would have been pretty close to my age. I can totally sympathize with her when I imagine my already exhausted self having a 6-year-old who will only eat white foods, giving up after trying to negotiate and just packing a slice of grocery store cake into her lunchbox. Oh, children are wonderful, aren't they? Sorry if this is kind of long. It's just been forever since I've been outside and gotten any social interaction from people I don't live with. Me too. So that one's from Christine. Very good. I liked that. Quick one here from Blake. Besides Arthur, what other animated series or anime do you watch right now? Also, has Will seen Over the Garden Wall? Well, if you're a patron on patreon.com/Elwood City Limits, you might very well know that I did watch Over the Garden Wall when I was sick 2 years ago, and there is a podcast where I give my full thoughts on it. So I would direct you over there. Other than that, right now, I have Disney Plus for a spell, so I've been watching Gravity Falls.
Oh, Gravity Falls is wonderful.
Yeah, it is pretty good. I'm enjoying it. I'm only about 10 episodes in, so I need to keep going. I've dropped off a little bit, but that's about it for... I'm actually listening to... I'm on the What a Cartoon Patreon, so I've been listening to a lot of their What a Cartoon Movie podcasts. Very good. Highly recommended. What about you, Lucas?
I watched the first couple episodes of the Midnight Gospel, that new Netflix series from the Adventure Time guy, which is they animate narratives around these podcast conversations. It's pretty interesting, but I too have kind of not kept up with it and have fallen behind a little bit. In terms of anime, I have my weekly over the Discord anime club, and with that we're watching Initial D and Super Dimensional Fortress Macross and Utena and City Hunter and Captain Harlock, and this week we're going to be watching Dirty Pair for the first time. So I hadn't seen any of those shows before, and I'm really enjoying watching all of those. And then I've been watching a little bit of a little show called Todd McFarlane's Spawn.
All right.
Which is just so great. It's so good. No one had told me that every episode starts with a live action clip of Todd McFarlane drawing in some sort of castle.
The best. I love it.
I cannot believe that that had to be in his contract or something. I cannot believe they let that air on television, because it's probably one of the.
What would you do if your girlfriend cheated on you? Hi, I'm Todd McFarlane, the creator of Spawn.
Hey, I'm Todd McFarlane, creator of Spawn. What would you do if you were clutching to your mortal coil, and you had to look at the infinite darkness, and you heard a voice call out that you could have eternal life? Quick, think fast. If you had to make the same decisions, it's
heaven and hell, black and white, two sides of the same coin.
Dude, Canadian legend. Can I just say?
Of course.
A magnanimous, just Canadian. We do not talk about. Where's Todd McFarlane's Canadian history moment, where he gets his own comic cover? Yeah, those videos are incredible. But the show's actually, those aside, the show's actually very, very good. Some of the best voice acting I've seen in an adult animated show ever. But
sure, it's like Keith David and company.
Well, it's all these HBO actors that were on other shows at the time. But yeah, those. For any of our listeners, they're all on YouTube. Please look up the intros. If you had to become Satan's favorite demon, what choice would you make if you were cripping to? Yeah, it's so good.
You ever cheated on a test? You ever you ever slept with a coworker? You ever done that? I'm Todd McFarlane, and welcome to Spawn.
Oh my god!
It's even better than that if you could believe it. I kind of honestly
a castle. He's drawing the Spawn comics, but he's in warehouse.
He wanted to be the Rod Serling character so bad. Oh my god. It's very funny. Yeah, those are absolutely on YouTube. I've found those before. The show itself, I'm a little bit in the middle on. I think that some of the animation's very good, the voice acting's very good, but didn't do a whole lot for me. Spawn itself is a little bit dated. What I was thinking of is I would love a Canadian Heritage commercial for Todd McFarlane, but it's one of the ones that is in French.
Oh, interesting.
For no reason. He's not French, but just I don't know, just make it funny. Just Todd McFarlane published Spawn in 1993. It was good for about 100 issues, and then it kept going. Anyway, I kid. If you like Spawn, it's all good. Okay, so we have one more email here from Anonymous. Very rare we get an anonymous email. But this one is a bit of an answer to something that I believe we got this email maybe a season or two ago, and it's high time. Arthur's special idea. If Arthur needs to do a 2-hour special, they should make their own version of Hamilton.
Okay, interesting.
So... And this anonymous person has the cast ready to go. Lucas, it's time to evaluate. Are you ready?
Let's go. Let's hear it.
So Arthur's Hamilton, of course.
Okay, yeah. He reads. He do be reading.
Binky is Aaron Burr because Binky punched Arthur and Aaron Burr shot Hamilton.
Yeah, I guess Binky's kind of a conflicted. There's a lot of internal strife with Binky. I could see that.
I want Bruce Dinsmore to sing Wait For It. That's what I want to do. I should see if he's on Cameo or something. Mr. Ratburn equals Washington. George Washington was Hamilton's mentor when he was Washington's right-hand man. They have a Yoda-Luke relationship.
Okay, yeah, I could see that.
Brain equals Jefferson.
Brain? I feel like Francine's Thomas Jefferson.
Okay, the Francine's coming up.
Hasn't Francine literally played Thomas Jefferson on Arthur before?
She has, in fact. She's filled out the role before. Buster equals John Laurens, one of Hamilton's friends. There's even a video saying that Laurens and Hamilton are gay. So there you go. There's that side to it as well. Francine Muffy and Sue Ellen, the Schuyler sisters.
Yeah, okay, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. We've got Ed Crosswire as Philip Schuyler. There's literally a quote in Hamilton that says, "The man is loaded." So I don't think that needs any explanation, though he wouldn't be selling cars in colonial America. Maybe selling, like, cannons or something.
Horses and carriages, perhaps.
Horses, there it is. Why did I think of cannons instead of horses? What's the matter with me? Rattles equals King George III. He is portrayed as an antagonist in the series, like how George III is one of the antagonists in Hamilton. I think I'd just like to hear Rattles' voice actor sing "You'll Be Back." Emily equals Lafayette. Sorry, she's the only French person I know of in Arthur. I couldn't think of anyone for DW. Maybe she can be a heckler for the different songs.
I also want to clarify that Emily herself is not French. She just has a French nanny.
Yeah. And of course, if they ever make a Hamilton-Arthur crossover, Lin-Manuel Miranda needs to guest star and play piano with Arthur. I mean, that needs to happen anyway. So, well, there you go. A Hamilton fan cast for you. One I'm sure of many.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think now what other musicals Arthur we could slap all the Arthur characters on. What's Arthur Les Mis look like?
Oh, endless, I'm sure. Well, Ratburn's got to be Javert.
Yeah,
because I want to hear Arthur Holden do Javert.
I don't know the characters' names very well, so forgive me, but I would think Arthur would be the Eddie Redmayne character. You know what I mean? And
yes.
Sue Ellen would be the one that has the crush on him, but like Muffy or Francine would be the Amanda, whatever her name is, character instead.
Amanda Seyfried.
Amanda Seyfried, yeah. And Mr. Haney. And that other teacher that like freaks out all the time would be those two people that run that inn.
Yes, yeah, okay, I'm into it.
And that's all I got right now.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for your emails. Some very interesting ones this week. ElwoodCityLimits@gmail.com if you want to add to the interest. And adding to the interest in our lives for sure, because they allow us to create the For the Kids podcast, a podcast about PBS Kids. In fact, we just did an episode on Wishbone. If you'd like to hear that, you could be one of these patrons. There's Aaron DeFilippo and Andrew Power, Caitlin Harrington Robinson. Caitlin, I see you've got a joint last name now. Shander Lefebvre Boughton, Christine Lascote, Christine Wong, Sierra S., Dan Mike Dawson Silva, E.J. Acra, Emily K., Froppy, Greg Hagai, Ian Collis, Jake Bailey, Joe Sue, John DeLong, John Griswold, Josias Melendez, Kat, Kaylin Krogal, Kevin Noon, Kristen, Leanne S., Light Relentless, Lily Warden, Lion Dog ZXA, you heard from him earlier, Macy Ball, Marlo Stanfield, Matt, Melissa Avalez, Michaela Gibson, Pretty Cool Stairs, Rachel Pearson, Riley Stevens, Shayna Bennett, Shelby Eden, Dawkins Law, Stella Teresa William, and Yoshi. Okay, it's high time for an Arthur episode, and like you mentioned, Lucas, it's all about the squirrels, this one.
Yeah, I'm going squirrely, Will. Let's get into it.
Yeah, for real though. So of course, the first thing that I think of is the birds, but we don't quite start there. We use a gentle hand. 'Tis a gentle hand will rule the land. Arthur is woken up in the middle of the night by DW, who is urging him to start the cold open. I feel like it's been forever since Arthur's done the cold open.
Yeah, this was just a classic fourth wall breaking Ferris Bueller style cold open. They're like acknowledging it in the episode itself, that it is like, hey, okay, start the show, Arthur. Classic like DW like screaming at Arthur, which is kind of a homage to the actual title card itself, right? Where there's one where someone's got like a blowhorn, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
And yeah, just the imagery of like, we get this weird like under DW's chin shot of her with the blowhorn. And then there's just like all these great lines throughout this. So basically Arthur's talking about how it's kind of a weird concept. It's a fine line between what's scary and what's not scary. And so you're presented with all these situations where they either are initially harmless or initially scary, and then they are kind of turned on their head. So first, like, Arthur has, like, a jack-o'-lantern, and he's, like, scary. And then he puts, like, the funny face glasses on it, and then he's, like, not scary. We get a great line from DW where she says, Mom, Arthur's playing with his food, which describing someone using a jack-o'-lantern as playing with food is, like, very funny to me for some reason.
Sure.
And then aliens arrive, and which Arthur describes as scary, but he puts salt on it, and it shrinks into a tiny alien that chirps like a squirrel.
Yeah, that was a weird one.
To which, then a little bit of foreshadowing there, to which DW has another really good line where she says, Mom, Arthur's being mean to aliens.
Yeah, DW seemed really just out for Arthur in this cold open. The alien one was a little strange, but it kind of fits in with the, I guess, more horror-like elements of the episode. Horror in quotation marks. So yeah, all about things that seem scary that aren't, and vice versa, which is kind of where we start. Arthur and Buster having a sleepover at Buster's place, and Bitsy has recommended they watch a movie that she watched when she was young called The Squirrels.
Let me tell you something, Will, right here, a little bit of quarantine yearning, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, oh, remember watching horror movies with the homies?
Sleepovers with the boys.
Sleepovers with the boys? Oh well.
Oh. I know. It hurts, but...
What am I talking about? I have a roommate, Will. We watched The Five Bloods together last night.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I guess I've never really stopped. I'm currently at an endless sleepover with the homies, but you know what I mean.
And you know what? That's what marriage is. An endless sleepover with the homie.
Aw, how pure.
So yeah, The Squirrels, which is, of course, an obvious reference to Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds. There's a couple of visual homages in the actual movie that they watch, which is fun if you've seen the actual movie, right down to like the playground scene where they are on the monkey bars and stuff like that. The ending shot, which is the exact same as The Birds. I thought that was very good. But the whole thing is that Arthur and Buster are like, literally laugh in Bitsy's face because she says like, this movie scared me to death when I was your age, and they're just like, it's about squirrels. What could possibly go wrong here? And we don't see exactly, but it kind of sounds like a bit of a violent affair. Like you kind of hear people going like, ah, and like kind of being attacked by squirrels, and you're just like, okay, I know what's happening there. That's a little intense.
So the mark of any great fake movie in a piece of fiction is that you kind of want it to be real and you would like to see it, right? Like whenever you see a movie described in a show, sometimes it just sounds stupid or it's just like an obvious parody, but it's really interesting when it is like, oh, I wish this was real. For instance, who could forget the number one, I think it wins the Oscars in Arthur every single year, 5,000 Explosions in a Supernova. I want to know more. Where are these explosions coming from? What's going to happen with the supernova? You've piqued my interest. The kids seem to really like it. This is the same thing with the squirrels. This movie seems awesome. This movie seems so great.
Well, if it's anything close to the movie it's a parody of, then yeah, I'm game to check it out. I'm also interested so they're watching it off of TV, so when they stop the movie, we get like a, coming up next for your late night movie, it's Loser High, and it's like, sounds like a high school romp kind of a thing.
Ooh, I wonder what's...
So I want to watch Loser High.
I too want to watch Loser High. Do you have a favorite, before we move on, do you have a favorite like high school movie, Will? I know that's
Got it.
you on the spot.
I'm a bit of a basic boy. It's got to be The Breakfast Club. I just watched that over the weekend again. I love The Breakfast Club. Ferris Bueller too. Two of my favorite
Ferris
movies.
Bueller's really good. I have an affinity for Clueless. I love Clueless.
Oh, Clueless is really good too.
Clueless is one of my favorite movies of all time. Though I just watched, I made a Letterboxd, by the way. If any of the Elwood City listeners want to follow me on Letterboxd, I post little.
Oh yeah.
Every time I've been watching a movie in 2020, I've just been posting like a couple sentence funny little review of it. So it's just been good to keep track. So it's I post it on my Twitter, but it's I think Luchadeer Jr. So LuchDeer JR on Letterboxd. But I watched Risky Business for the first time this year and absolutely loved it. I love that movie. So I wonder what score I would be giving The Squirrels.
I forgot that I follow you on Letterboxd. I had to check myself. If you want to follow me on Letterboxd, it's William Y. It's just WILLIAMWHY. I haven't used it in a while. I kind of keep forgetting I have it, so I need to be better about that. But I do have a couple of lists about Christopher Nolan and the Coen brothers because I am WHITE. Of course, the boys are spooked by this. They're enthralled but spooked, and they can't stop being scared of the squirrels. In fact, the next morning when Arthur's on his way back home, by the way, did you see the rollers on Bitsy?
Yes. Bitsy's got the perm going on.
That's going to be a tough dude to manage. So Arthur is, of course, petrified of squirrels on the way back home. Buster sees a squirrel in the backyard as he's doing dishes, and it keeps getting like closer and closer. He draws the curtains, and then it's even closer. It's right next to the window, and he's freaked out.
So this whole sequence is probably one of the biggest highlights of the episode for me, and I'm not sure if this was just me paying attention to it more or what, but this episode has some really like cinematic and creative framing for the ways they're setting up these scenes because they're trying to build tension. You know, the writers kind of put themselves in a difficult position where it's like you have to make the audience kind of empathize with Buster and Arthur like freaking out over, which is essentially nothing, squirrels in broad daylight. But to do this, they end up using like actual effective cinematic techniques with like framing, like the shot of Buster doing the dishes, you know, the camera's really wide out and it's like at a Dutch angle, so it's kind of off kilter. You're like, what's going on here? Why is this so strange? We get all these weird like zooms, and just the framing of everything is really, really well done. And it's like the way it plays with perspective, you know, the environments look like really big around the characters. There's all these low angles and stuff. It's done to kind of make you uneasy. And I was like, this is a really, you know, the term isn't well shot, but this is like a really well composed Arthur episode. I don't usually, like, sometimes we'll notice if the animation gets better or worse, but we don't really talk about the framing all that much in Arthur. So this was something that I really, really enjoyed.
Something I feel a bit under-equipped, but clearly you have a much keener eye than I do towards that sort of thing. By the way, 5 stars for Risky Business.
I loved Risky. I was really surprised because I thought it was going to be like a goofy John Hughes movie, and that movie's like weirdly dark. And the Tangerine Dream soundtrack. It's like it has really interesting things to say about class. I don't know. I like that movie a lot. Underrated.
So okay,
people just know it for the dancing part.
See more on Luchadeer Jr. on Letterboxd. So yeah, the phenomenon here is that everybody tuned in to see the squirrels during the weekend, and everybody kind of is slowly testing it out. And when I say everybody, I mean like the main cast of Arthur. They're outside and being like, "Hey, did you guys watch the squirrels on the weekend?" And like, "Yeah, why?" Just like, "Were you scared?" Just like, no. And everybody's kind of like laughing about it, like, ha, how ridiculous. But then everybody sees squirrels and they run inside the school, which I found that very interesting, the phenomenon of kids being scared and not admitting to it in like a large group.
No, I thought this was great. Like, I loved everyone being so obviously in denial that they were all equally scared. I wonder what channel, you know, this is something kind of to be, you don't really sit down and watch movies on TV anymore. This is kind of a bygone thing. Did you ever have like Showcase or like HBO, Will? You stay up, watch a movie, usually like R-rated that you weren't supposed to or something like that?
There was like Showtime, but yeah, every once in a while, like it would be late enough that you would get an uncensored movie on I don't know, one of the channels that's around the horn, maybe one of the American channels or something like that. The Space Channel. I remember Space Channel used to play anime on Friday nights.
Hell yes. No, but yeah, it's kind of a bygone thing. So this was fun to watch all the kids like gather, be like, "Did you watch that crazy movie that was on TV last night?" Imagine if they were like, "Did you guys see that like superhero cartoon where this guy with like this Canadian accent was in a dungeon and he was asking us all these questions about what we would do if we were in those situations? What would you do?" If there was, see, now it's getting into like Kermit territory. I've lost the voice a little bit, but it's like it borders on there. He's not even that Kermit-y. It's just like that's the easiest kind of. It's like when I do Dan Reichert from who used to be with Giant Bomb. It's just like it borders on Kermit at all times. If there were squirrels coming towards you and they looked like they were going to tear you to shreds, would you run? Would you stay still? Would you call out to the darkness? Quick, ask yourself this. What would you? Spawn didn't have a choice.
What would you... Hi, I'm Todd McFarlane. Welcome to Spawn. What would you do... What would you do if you saw a scary movie and couldn't admit to it in front of your friends? Would you stand up and be brave? Spawn got scared by a movie once. Let's see how he does.
It's not just the voice, it's that like he delivers it in such a like like he just keeps talking. There's no pauses. It's so stilted and weird.
Like, again, no real shade to Todd. It's just he's not charismatic.
Oh, no. Like, no shade intended. Listen, Todd, you're looking at Todd McFarlane, Defender #1 over here in Radioland. That's my hill to die on any day of the week. But you're right.
He's no Rod Serling. He's no the Crypt Keeper. So it takes a certain person to kind of really make those pop. So yeah, we are seeing everybody being freaked out by squirrels at every turn. And Arthur happens to come across a children's show that DW is watching that does involve squirrels. And it's like people dressed as squirrels in like squirrel costume. And it's a very blatant Teletubby ripoff. It's just like squirrels with the things on their head and all that kind of stuff. And he's just like, oh, wait a second. These squirrels aren't scary. Well, maybe this will help me not be scared.
Which really speaks to the Love Ducks. The Love Ducks. Really speaks to Teletubbies as an children's TV institution. Because what season was the Love Ducks episode in?
I'd say 2 or 3.
Season 2 or 3. So we're almost 10 years of Teletubbies parodies on Arthur. You'd think they would have found a new point of reference by now.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting how they decided to go with this and like make fun of the Teletubbies this way. You know, by 2006, you had other kiddie shows that you could kind of poke fun at that you also own. But it's like Timmy, the friendliest squirrel in the world. These are videos that Arthur finds at the video store and is renting so that he can make himself not afraid of squirrels anymore. And it turns out a lot of kids have that same idea that they can kind of find different ways to beat their fear of squirrels and also to write a report on it for homework.
By the way, throwaway character of the week is, of course, the nerdy video store clerk who comments that they've lost all their squirrel tapes for the weekend because all the kids around town have been renting them.
Yeah, it's a big shout out to like when this guy's just like, the Skippy squirrel thing, and just like, all right, quiet, not everybody needs to know. It's the same as like, do we have a copy of the Love Duck CD for this boy? Like that happened to me when I rented the first Twilight movie when I was like 18, and like the guy at the former local establishment Video Difference is like, Twilight, and I'm like, shut up.
Wow, that guy really ate his words now. The RPAT Renaissance, he's probably feeling embarrassed, Will, about how he embarrassed you there with the RPAT Renaissance.
He's hotter than he's ever been.
Exactly.
So everybody does their weekend report on the squirrel stuff that they watched, these like kiddie cartoons. And Mr. Ratburn says that they have gone above and beyond the homework call of duty, which I thought was a funny way to phrase that. So Mr. Ratburn is, of course, very pleased. It's weird to see him so pleased about people doing homework. It's just something not too right about it. But he intuits that everybody has seen the squirrels thing over the weekend. And of course, the running joke throughout this episode is that Everybody saw the squirrels and is scared of it, except for Binky. He did not see the movie. So he's just like, I didn't see the squirrels. What's a big deal? So Mr. Ratburn gives him a slideshow about squirrels, which includes real pictures of squirrels.
So the animal hierarchy is now blown to smithereens. Because not only do we have funny animals and regular animals, now Mr. Ratburn shows slides of live action animals, and I don't even know what to think, Will. This is like truly shocking. Have we ever seen live action footage in Arthur outside of A Word From Us Kids?
Yeah, I feel...
Postcards for Buster, of course, but...
Yeah, the episode where they were watching Nova. That was real footage.
Oh, right? I forgot about that. That's funny.
Prove It, it was called. Prove It.
Yeah.
That was the episode.
I forgot about the episode where they watched Nova. That's funny. But yeah, animal hierarchy blown to smithereens. It's funny, another show that I've been watching, we talked about this earlier, Initial D. There's a part in Initial D where they're like drifting cars. What do you mean? And then all the characters gather around a TV and they just watch live action footage of someone drifting in a Supra.
Not bad. Deja vu. And so this, I felt, this line right here. So the kids go outside afterwards and just like, wow, what a great presentation. I'm not scared of squirrels anymore. Of course, everybody still is, except for Binky. And he's like, what is going on here? So Arthur calls Buster at home, and Arthur says, let's face it, we're both scared of going outside right now.
I know, and this was like, again, yeah, art imitates life, right? I was like, ay.
So Arthur decides to do a little bit of, what is it called? Exposure therapy. So they're going to feed some nuts to squirrels, and get them gradually closer, and just by getting closer to them, they'll see that they're not scary at all, and they'll be cured. So they do that a little bit. They kind of give a squirrel a nut and then another one. But then, horror of horrors, they are chased by a group of squirrels. And they're chased even so much like they accidentally knock the nuts out of their bag. And the squirrels come in the front, like the landing of the house. And I'm like, this is a nightmare. Squirrels in the house. No, thank you.
Yeah, this whole situation, at this point, I was like, this episode's crazy. Because I thought the moral of the story was like, okay, squirrels are nothing to be feared. But the fact that the squirrels are invading their home, quick story. So in my line of work, one of my, not really my coworker, but it's a guy in the same industry, and we were talking about, he was telling me this insane story where there was like squirrel traps at his house, or like some sort of mouse trap at his house, but like a squirrel got caught in it, but it's like a cage or something, so it's like you take it to another area or something like that. Anyway, there's a squirrel in this cage. He's got to transport it, so he puts it in his car, goes over a speed bump, gets out of the cage. The squirrel is running around in the inside of his car. He gets in a car accident. He like tries to swat at the squirrel. He like goes off the side of the road into a ditch. He was fine.
Ugh.
He totaled his car. But this kind of squirrel hijinks, it just doesn't happen to me this often. So I was surprised to see the squirrels enter Buster and Arthur's place. You'd think they'd be like too scared or something to follow them in there.
Yeah, and in the confusion, the mom manages to shoo most of them out. Arthur and Buster slam the door. One of the squirrels gets hurt. And we don't really see how. I'm guessing like maybe one of the guys landed on it or something. And they have to take it to a like specialty animal hospital where they kind of fix up the leg. And the veterinarian or the animal worker says that every time that movie comes on, the squirrels, then we get a whole bunch of people who are afraid of them. But really, when you get up close to them, they're not that bad. They're more afraid of us than we are of them, sort of thing. So Arthur gets the idea to bring the squirrel in its cage from the animal hospital into class and to show everybody to it up close. And once they get up close, it's like, it's actually kind of cute, and they get to learn firsthand. There's a joke here about Binky sees like the squirrels on video and like finally watches it, and then somebody makes reference to the birds. And I was like, well, wait a second. The birds exists in Arthur? Does Alfred Hitchcock exist in Arthur?
Yeah, did the director, was there a lawsuit between the people who directed the birds and the people who directed the squirrels?
Yeah, is the squirrels a parody?
So PBS is in Arthur.
Yes.
The show Nova is in Arthur.
Jeopardy. No, sorry, Jeopardy's not.
No, Jeopardy. But the Backstreet Boys, yes. Matt
Yes.
Damon, yes.
Neil Gaiman, yes. Alfred Hitchcock,
Maybe? Mao. Chairman Mao. The Chinese cultural revolution did, in fact, take place in Arthur. But, so that, yes. Alfred Hitchcock, still question mark.
Yeah, and so now Binky is afraid of squirrels after seeing the video, and everybody else is pretty much cured after kind of getting a closer look at the thing they were so afraid of.
Can I also just say, Mr. Rappard okayed them bringing the squirrel into class. Like, he included that in his daily lesson plan for the day. Like, it seems like it's the start of class where they're bringing out the squirrel in the cage. It seems, methinks a little disruptive to your learning day, huh?
Well, we've seen before that Mr. Ratburn is open to adaptation. Like, all the times that the kids are like, "Can I do my report outside?" And he's like, "Yeah, right." Like he's very good at going with the flow, it seems. So I think he saw a teachable moment, a teachable opportunity. All right, before we get into the next part of our episode, we're going to take a quick break here, and we will be right back.
Hey everybody, it's Lucas from the Elwood City Limits podcast, and if you love ECL, there's a couple of ways to keep up with us. You could go to facebook.com/Elwood City Limits, at ECL Podcast, that's our Twitter. We take questions on Tumblr. It's elwoodcitylimits.tumblr.com. There is an Instagram as well, Elwood City Limits on Instagram. Of course, if you want to donate to the show and get exclusive content, whether that's our full-length commentary of the Arthur movies, our brand new bi-weekly PBS Kids review show, as well as our video game movie reviews with the Sonic movie review and Pikachu movie review, you can check out patreon.com/Elwood City Limits. And that's also going to get you access to the Elwood City Limits Discord, which me and Will like to post in from time to time. And if you want that sweet, sweet Elwood City Limits merch, check out teespring.com/stores/Elwood-City-Limits-store. You can listen to the podcast at libsyn.com/Elwood City Limits, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and there's other podcast apps like Stitcher, and if we're not on your favorite app, let us know. And where can you let us know? Well, that's going to be at elwoodcitylimits@gmail.com. That's also where you can send us a question, and we'll read it on the show. Finally, if you want to support the podcast, the best way to do so is to tell a friend who likes animation or Arthur or just podcasts in general, and to go to our iTunes page and rate us out of 5 stars. Apparently, that helps podcasts out. Bye, everybody!
Lucas, you hear that?
Are you starting a fire? Are you perhaps...
It feels like it. I'm rubbing my hands together because I'm so excited. We're talking about Fern and Persimmony Glitchet. As you know, I think you know, if we're doing the medal tiers, we've got gold. We've got Binky episodes getting the gold.
Yeah.
I'd like to think that Fern episodes are at least a silver.
Sterling silver for sure.
And then maybe George episodes for the bronze.
Perhaps George, Buster. It's kind of an all-out brawl for the bronze.
Yeah, but yeah, seeing this, I was really excited. Fern is right in the middle of the thing. She even gets her own title card. So I was very excited about this. It starts off with fairy tales, and Fern asking the question, "What if fairy tales were nicer?" So we get the example
So the whole conceit of this is just like, okay, like Little Red Riding Hood, no wolf, Jack and the Beanstalk, no giant, which is like, the thing Ferd is proposing is it reminds me of that scene in Adaptation where like Nicolas Cage is like, what if someone wrote a movie where nothing happened and there was no problems? And the guy like starts screaming at him at the movie writing workshop, and he's like, every day someone makes a decision to destroy someone else. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do. I know what you're talking about. I found this interesting. I actually kind of spoke to a childhood version of myself. The example I was going to say is that Muffy is Cinderella and Francine's her evil stepmother, which I found interesting. It's not often we see Muffy in the servant role. Usually it is the other way around. As a kid, I was the type of person who I was a soft boy, still am, but just a bigger soft boy, where I didn't want people in stories to have problems at all. Like, I would be happy if everybody got along and everybody was nice. But of course, that's not how good stories are made. And that's kind of our lead in to the episode. Like I said, Fern getting her own title card, very happy about it. So this story is all based around the book series in Arthur called A Series of Horrendously Horrible Happenings, which, Lucas, if you're aware, it's a parody of another popular book series, A Series of Unfortunate Events.
And so I was really surprised because we're in 2006 at Arthur, right? I thought A Series of Unfortunate Events was way later in the 2000s, but I guess not.
As a matter of fact, this year that this episode is airing, 2006, was when the very last book in the series came out.
Whoa! Oh my goodness. So when did it start?
I want to say that was the
Look at this up
late
now.
late 90s.
Really?
I should have looked it up. 1999.
Oh yeah,
to be specific.
99.
So yeah, it started a bit earlier than you think, and has managed to stay fairly relevant thanks to stuff like the Netflix adaptation that's only a year or two old. So yes, if you've never heard of this, it is a series of books for children and young adults, a series of unfortunate events written by Lemony Snicket, whose author parody in this episode is Persimmony Glitchet. And I liked this because it was funny picking out which parts of the Arthur parody, like how close do they get. So for example, in the real book series, the children are called the Baudelaires, and their name is based off of a French poet named Baudelaire. In the Arthur universe, they're called the Bronte children, based off English poet Charlotte Bronte.
Oh my goodness, that's so creative.
And the villain that they keep referring to when they go talk about the book series in Arthur is called Duke Vladimir. In real life, Count Olaf. So they get them pretty close while not doing a paper thin parody such as it is. But as well, I haven't read any of these books, so I'm wondering. No, I never did. I'm wondering how close this is for people who have read the book series. How close did Arthur get to capturing the feel of the series?
So I read like the first 3 or 4 when I was a kid. The whole sequence with like the magician on the stage, that's like straight out of one of the books. I vaguely remember this. It's been so long since I read these. The shark one I don't remember. Let's see. I'm trying to. Because each book's like a kind of a different, a completely different situation these poor orphans find themselves in, right? There's one book where they're like living in this house that's like falling off a cliff with this like really neurotic lady. It's hard for me to remember, but the one where the guy's doing magic on stage is straight out of the books.
Gotcha. Yeah, see, this is all beyond me. I remember I saw the movie adaptation in theaters when it came out, but I don't really have much of a memory for it. So Fern is talking about this, of course. She and Francine are big fans of the book series, and thankfully, given recent events, we're not talking about Henry Screever, so we don't have to have that conversation. And the next book in the Horrible Happening series is coming up very soon, and Fern decides to write a letter to Persimmony Glitchet, which, again, this is probably lost on anybody who doesn't know about kind of the author and the kind of metatextual element of A Series of Unfortunate Events, because this was what stuck in my mind the most about the book series when I was a kid. It's the fact that you never saw the author's face. Lemony Snicket was like this figure shrouded in mystery who had to keep his identity a secret and all this kind of thing. And Persimmony Glitchet is the same way. It's like you can write to him, but it will probably be handled by his assistant,
right? Which
I believe was also the thing of Lemony Snicket's butler or whatever. And it turned out in the end, like, not to spoil this for anybody, but it's like it's somebody's pen name. It's the author used Lemony Snicket as a pen name and kind of had fun with it. So it's a little bit hard if you don't know that side to it, but that's where the kind of Persimmony Glitchet character comes from in these flashbacks. So like Fern will deliver her letter on she wants to be a writer. And we'll see this big thing of like it's being delivered by car, then by plane, and then being the butler swims out to give it to Persimmony Glitchet personally. So all this mystery around it. And Fern finally gets her letter like 6 to 8 weeks later or whatever. I love this little part. So Francine is kind of her second in this episode, so she gets the letter while Francine is there, and Fern just goes in her house, slams the door in Francine's face. And the big theme of this episode is that, so Fern initially gets the letter and it's blank, but she takes that to mean, because Fern is all in her detective stuff, she's probably into the spy craze as well.
Oh,
from this
Fern's
time.
sleuthing.
Big time. And she reads it with a UV light, or whatever type of light it is that allows you to read invisible ink. The basis here is that, and I want to call out Persimmony Glitchet and Miss Turner as well, the librarian, both of them encouraging Fern to become a writer. So Glitchet gives her some tips. Miss Turner later suggests where she can publish her writing. It just kind of warmed my heart a little bit to see Fern wanting to be a writer, and she's getting practical advice on how she can do that at her age. It's really cool. So after getting some encouragement from Persimmony Glitchet and Miss Turner, she decides to become a writer, and her pen name is going to be after her two favorite writers of all time, Agatha Shelley.
Which is a pretty good pen, a little on the nose, but a pretty good pen name. I'll also say, when Fern's getting ready to write, I think it's about 18... Oh, let me see if I can get the time.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Oh, how it says Beantown on the pencil sharpener?
Oh, okay. Mine's actually a couple seconds after that.
Oh,
so
okay.
So Chicago?
No, I believe Boston is Beantown.
Oh my goodness. Chicago, Boston area listeners, I'm sorry. That's my Canadian ignorance coming out there. I apologize.
Yeah, it's 1819 is where we get Beantown.
Beantown. Gotcha. No, what I was looking at was Fern tightening her bow. She does that a couple of times to be like, do her like anime putting the goggles on, let's get down to business.
It's very Kiki's Delivery Service.
Yes. So yeah, Agatha Shelley, like you said, a bit on the nose, but it's in that way that kids are on the nose about it. So it's like, I could see that being her first like live journal username or something. Her login for fanfiction.net. I just thought it was very cute. So she writes a story that is not at all like the normal stuff she writes, which is like kind of moody, gothic detective fiction. So she submits something to the Lakewood Elementary Reader, and it's called Happy Happenings. And she is very excited to kind of get people's reaction to it without tipping her hat too much that she's Agatha Shelley, and the initial response is negative.
Yeah, this is my favorite part of this episode, is her trying to kind of play coy and be like, ooh, what did you think of Happy Happenings? And just one after another, just savagery. Like, I forget who says this, but one goes, was that the boring one? Someone else, this was my favorite, goes, a shallow take on a shallow life.
I think that was Binky, and I wrote that down too. It was so callous, but of course he doesn't know that that's Fern, but still it's just like, ooh, my God, it's raw. Yeah, Happy Happenings, which is a very treacly story that kind of doesn't go anywhere, about a character named Felicity Bonchez, which is apparently a reference. We're going to get into that later in the episode. And too happy. So everybody's saying it's like, it's too happy. There's, nothing happens and there's no conflict, which is kind of tying into what the cold open was talking about. So this is very discouraging to Fern. She tried to write something different and it really didn't work. And the negative reviews get to her a little bit. So she writes to Persimmony Glitchet again, who's like, you can always imagine your critics being, what I forget what the language she used was, but like savaged or, torn apart or whatever it is. We get this really funny imagination scene where it's like Francine giving Fern a bad review, and she just gets abducted by a pterodactyl.
Oh my gosh.
And Fern is right next to her, and she just smiles and says nothing. It's really funny. Especially because it's so quick. It's like Francine is saying something, pterodactyl grabs her, that's the end. We don't see anything beyond that. Fern decides to take it in a little bit of a different way, and adds a bit of conflict. She adds like a villain character and like a treasure that Felicity Bonchez is looking after, and then that really gets the hooks into the readers. Everybody likes it much, much better. Fern and Francine are talking about it and kind of like, what parts did you like the best? And I was like, Fern uses a word for Romani people that was actually talked about in a recent episode.
Oh,
and
yeah.
just like, baby, Fern's first problematic writing, perhaps.
Oh, man, 14 years really makes a difference, huh?
Yeah, for real, though. There is going to be a book signing by Persimmony Glitchet, apparently, at the local bookstore. So Fern is very happy to meet him. And, of course, this is a book signing for the brand new book, which everybody has been waiting for. But it turns out it is only his, I want to say it's like his assistant, essentially. The one we keep seeing delivering him his mail in kind of Fern's little imaginations. But as she gets her book signed by the assistant, and she's in the mystery section, and we see a familiar figure. So in this episode, what did you think of Persimmony Glitchet's fit here? He's got like a fedora.
My gosh, yeah.
He's got a bomber jacket.
He's dressed like PK Subban with the blue turtleneck, the bomber, and the fedora. It's a very like PK Subban-esque, game day fit. He's just like Russell Westbrook or something. I'm a fan.
So he kind of strikes up a conversation with Fern. Fern, of course, not really knowing who he is, but I can't exactly remember the matter of their conversation. Do you remember?
It's funny, he's kind of he too is being very coy. He's like, I can't stand those Lemony, Snicket books, those Lemony Glitchet books. And Fern's like, well, as a matter of fact, that's actually my favorite. I really like that author.
Eventually, he does sign her book, which is a little weird. It's just like, if some random man that you don't know who he is grabbed your book and signed it, I'd be like, don't do that. Especially after she got it signed by Glitch's assistant. But it turns out it's an autograph from Persimmony Glitchet himself, and they see him speeding away in his car and kind of gives him a wave. And that's kind of it. That's, it's, talking about it right now is like, yeah, that's kind of what happened in the episode, the long and short of it. So, Lucas, we're going to be talking about our thoughts here in a second, but there was somebody, a former guest of the show, who wanted to give her thoughts. So I'm going to turn things over to her for just a little bit, and we'll be back in just a second with our thoughts on this Arthur episode. Well, a little surprise for us here on Elwood City Limits. A lot of times when we're getting to an episode, there's somebody in our kind of neighborhood of friends that has a few things to say, and it turns out that one of our previous guests on the show has a few thoughts that she wants to share with us as well. So welcome back to the show, Viv. Hey, Viv.
Hi, Will. And hi, Lucas, even though you're not in the room.
He appreciates it. Well, it's really good to hear from you, Viv. So this episode, of course, that we're talking about involves the stories The Squirrels and Fern and Persimmony Glitchet. Now, you had thoughts on both of those episodes, and I'm curious to hear what you have to say. So let's start off with The Squirrels, if that's okay, and we'll lead up into Fern and Persimmony Glitchet. What kind of struck you about this episode in particular?
The first thing is that they are scared by a creature that's not that scary, squirrels. And when I was little, in 4th grade, on Martin Luther King Jr. Day, there was no school that day, and if that day didn't exist, then I wouldn't watch the scariest episode ever about cabbages.
Okay, it was so, and that episode scared you to the degree that the Squirrels did for Arthur and Buster.
It was an Australian kid show. It's a computer animated show, and I think it's on. I saw it on PBS. They didn't really do a good job with it of encountering something that's very scary, because most of the episode took place in this nightmare that the main character had, where that was cabbage themed and people worshipped cabbages or something, and his friends were turning into cabbages in 2 different ways, and the second time was very creepy because there was a shadow of his best friend turning into a cabbage, and it was very creepy and very scary, and I didn't overcome that fear until I was in 7th grade.
And how did you overcome that fear?
I think it was because I was reading a Magic Treehouse book at the time, and they had the word cabbages in it, and then I guess I thought that I guess cabbages aren't that scary. One time I couldn't finish a book because it had the word cabbages in it. In previous episodes, the squirrels didn't look like this, like little itty bitty aliens, adorable little fuzzy gray aliens, which is kind of interesting that they changed the design. I think they were just trying to make it more animal looking, because in the previous episodes it didn't really they didn't really look like animals. They just looked like characters because they have eyes and pupils. But when you see a squirrel, they don't really look like that. They don't look like a cartoon from a Snow White movie or a Bambi movie.
Do you want to talk about your feelings on Fern and Persimmony Glitchet? This was I think this story especially was one that you wanted to talk about, and I'm really interested what kind of this sparks for you. What this story makes you feel, and why it sits so strongly with you.
She wants to write a story someday, or she's an aspiring author, and she gets the opportunity to write to this author. I never done that myself. I've done that in a different way, where I emailed one of the new writers of Arthur, Matt Hoverman. I used to have the email, but I accidentally deleted it. But I remember what it said.
And you've mentioned that you're a writer, much like Fern is in this episode. So, did you relate to it in that way?
Yes, that's why it's my favorite.
Is this one of your favorite episodes, or your very favorite?
This is my favorite episode of all time, and my second favorite episode is the one where Neil Gaiman is in it.
Oh, we haven't gotten to that one yet. I'm excited though. It's gonna take a little while to get there, but I'm very excited to do that one. So good. That means I have a lot to look forward to.
When Fern's mom suggests writing a certain story, it wasn't something that was made up for the episode. It was actually a reference to a Postcards from Buster episode.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, neither did I when I first watched it, but I discovered this probably about a year ago, I think. I like the parts where Fern fiddles with her bow. That was very cute. It makes her look like she's determined to get to work. And when she mentions her favorite authors, she doesn't mention the Henry Screever author. So I don't think she's into the Henry Screever books like everyone else is.
That's right. I was kind of thinking about that and how, there was. I almost was expecting a mention of Henry Screever, but there wasn't any. So yeah, that must be a little bit of insight into what she does and doesn't like to read.
Yeah, and it's kind of strange a little bit because look at the Harry Potter books, and I think this might be similar to the Henry Screever books, is that the Harry Potter books has a little hint of mystery in them, and she likes mystery, so she might she might someday end up reading the books.
Before I forget to ask you, Viv, you mentioned that you wrote an email to one of the Arthur writers, and you said that you remember what it said. Do you mind sharing that?
I forget what I said, but he replied back saying how he became a writer on Arthur, but it was during the Flash animation era, but now I'm used to a Flash animation, but he was working on a play or something, and one of his college friends mentions, oh, you could work, I know some people you can work for, or something like that, and so he auditioned to become one of the writers of the show, and he ended up giving some ideas for possible episodes, and he got the part.
That's awesome. I'm super glad he told you that.
I found the ending kind of odd, kind of like open-ended. We don't really go back to this problem again in any future episodes, except for mentioning one of the books again, so it was just kind of odd. He just leaves, and Francine and Fern are confused.
Well, that's too bad. I was kind of wondering if maybe he would, but oh well, I guess not. Viv, your feedback on this is always appreciated. You are a practical encyclopedia of Arthur knowledge, so there's a lot of stuff that I don't know that you're able to fill in the gaps with. So I really appreciate you taking a look at this episode. Before we say goodbye here, I did want to mention the fact that you have recently started your own Patreon.
Yes, I did. If you go to my Twitter at KitKatValerie without an E between the L and the R, It will be pinned up there at the top, and you'll be able to click on it and join me and join my Patreon if you want to.
And I already have, and I'm very much looking forward to what you're going to be creating. It seems that you can also check out the URL, patreon.com/Arthur and Buster. Is it BFFL fan or just BFFL?
Just BFFL.
Patreon.com/Arthur and Buster BFFL. And you've got some Arthur related projects and some other things coming up very soon. I'm to understand.
Yeah, I sort of do. I mean, I don't have lots of plans, just a few little plans.
Well, I've always enjoyed your YouTube videos, and I feel very happy to be able to support you. And I really hope that you keep making content.
I hope so too.
So if you want to see more from Viv, I've already seen a couple of behind the scenes shots over on her Patreon, patreon.com/Arthur and Buster BFFL, and you can support somebody else who is making some great Arthur media and other media as well. I know that you're not just a fan of Arthur; you're a fan of a lot of other things too.
Yeah, I am.
All right, Viv, thank you so much for joining us here on ECL today. Anything else before we say goodbye here?
This part isn't from the episode, but I'm going to say it anyway because it's very funny. It's from an episode after the Special Someone episode. Isn't regurgitating fascinating?
That's awesome. We get 2 closer quotes for this episode. That's Viv, Arthur and Buster BFFL. Find her on Twitter, find her on YouTube, and of course find her on Patreon. Viv, it's really good to hear from you again. Thanks a lot.
Thank you too, and bye, Lucas.
Well, it was great to hear from Viv. I'm really glad I was able to talk to her. But Lucas, I want to talk to you about this now. Let's roll it back to the Squirrels. It seems that you liked that one.
Well, I loved the Squirrels. I loved the Squirrels. Season 10, off to a great start. I already feel kind of more passionate about the Squirrels than most episodes we saw in Season 9. Now, I will say, usually when we say a Arthur episode is exceptional, it's usually got the combination of being funny, clever, and kind of having an effective moral. There's not really a moral to the Squirrels. I guess the situation is like, if you have an irrational fear, you should learn about the thing that you're afraid. It's kind of, if you try to put it in those kind of terms, it kind of falls apart a little bit, where there's not really a tried and true moral to it. But you know what? I just thought it was a really funny episode, a really entertaining episode. I wasn't bored at all, and I thought it was a really visually interesting episode. Maybe I'm biased, because I like Hitchcock and I like movies and that kind of thing, and so seeing this very specific type of homage, was really putting wind into my sails, but I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a blast.
I'm glad you did. I'm a little bit cooler on it than you are, but what I did appreciate was that it kind of tackled its issue, quote unquote, not so much an issue episode, but it did so in a way that was very strange. But the more we talked about it, the more I kind of appreciated what it was doing. It's all about facing your fears, which is a pretty standard children's show thing, but there's so many twists and turns to the story, and
it's very rare an Arthur episode full on surprises me. That's something else that I really want to like. At the point where the Squirrels go into the house, I was like, what is this episode?
Yeah. And it kind of never goes the way that you think it will. I think, personally, it didn't do so much for me that it did for you, but what it did do, I think was quite good. So I want to be clear about that. So yeah, I'm glad that it did what it did. It's also just a funny, I wonder how that kind of idea came about of, we're going to do Alfred Hitchcock's the birds, but we're going to do the squirrels instead. So I'm sure the people who are film buffs in the writer's room probably got a good kick out of that, and the animators as well, recreating all the shots, and with all the framing as well, like you said. So I think where we may differ is that my big passion is for Fern and Persimmony Glitchet. Now, I will admit that in talking about the episode here with you, Lucas, I notice its narrative structure is a little weak. kind of not a lot happens when you talk about it in kind of a blow-by-blow way. But what I really appreciated, aside from Fern getting her own episode, which I love Fern, and she's one of my favorite characters, the message of kids who are like Fern. Like, I was like Fern. I wanted to be a writer when I grew up, and I wanted to do all this kind of stuff. And getting real concrete, like, advice. Not only does the character get that kind of advice, but the viewer does too. And I think I'm glad when Arthur can be a voice of encouragement. And I feel like it was for both the character of Fern and for kids watching who are at all relate to Fern. And I thought they did that in a really cool way. It also seems like just a love letter to this book series. So I imagine I'd really like this episode even more if I, read the series or felt any kind of way about it. So I'd be interested to hear from any of our listeners who are big fans, who feel if that comes across or not. But other than that, I just thought this was a very inventive episode. They got to use a lot of fun imagery. And I think Fern episodes always lend themselves to put a little bit of spark in there. So I was very entertained the whole way through. This was great.
I think we're kind of the inverse on this one, where it's like I was a little bit cooler on Fern and Persimmony Glitchet, but there's a lot I like about it. I love the whole sequence where, like, Fern is, like, seeking approval from her peers, and they keep, like, for lack of a better term, crapping all over her story. I thought that was pretty funny. I think all the parody stuff, like, I think Persimmony Glitchet's characterization in particular is he comes off as this, like, mysterious guy with this cool outfit, and he's in all these, like, weird he's kind of in Todd McFarlane-esque locations. When he gets these letters from Fern, I'm half surprised for him to turn into the camera and go, Fern, what would you do if you were hearing a call from the darkness? So I was into all that stuff. I just think the episode's a tad front-loaded. Like, once we get to the end, it just kind of fizzles out. There's not really a lot of conflict in it in general, besides kind of Fern seeking the approval of her peers. And not every episode has to have a lot of conflict, but I felt a little empty with the conclusion. That being said, I think it's a really, really solid Arthur episode. And it's so nice to hear from Fern again.
And what's unfortunate, as Viv mentioned in her kind of recollections there, we never see Persimmony Glitchet ever again. So there's a little bit of a tease at the end of just like, oh, what happened? Are we ever going to see him again? So no, apparently we don't, which is too bad. Yeah, and it was just both of these were very fun and interesting in their own ways. So I'm glad that we were able to talk about it here, and we're going to have a whole lot more to talk about as we keep on going here. And the next time you'll hear from us will be in the summer, and if you're a patron, you'll be hearing from us as soon as next week, because oh man, how do I explain this without seeming like a weirdo? Lucas and I are going to be talking on our Patreon exclusive podcast for the kids, a PBS Kids podcast. We're going to be talking about Barney and Friends. So that's going to be a time and a half, and I feel like that's also going to be secretly a lot of research to do, which I'm looking forward to, but also that means we'll have to watch an episode of Barney. So, probably a lot to choose from. But we're gonna have fun, and I'm actually really looking forward to that episode. It's just one of the stranger PBS Kids shows that we are going to be revisiting, and we just did the Wishbone episode. So if you want to check that out, you can. Lucas, next time here on the main feed of Elwood City Limits, we're going to be looking at the stories Desert Island Dish and The Secret About Secrets.
Oh my gosh! Finally, I get to know the secret about secrets. Will, I've been waiting.
The Secret Garden, The Secret Passage. I don't know. What is The Secret? The Legend of the Lost Legend? What's it going to be?
Ryback's favorite book, The Secret. So every once in a while, folks, on Elwood City Limits, I say a joke, and it's not for any of you guys. It's just for Will.
I have a mood board. No, it's a vision board. I'm going to face Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania. God, what a weirdo. So yeah, we're gonna be looking at that. Those episode titles are not giving anything away. So this literally could be anything, could be about anyone. So we're just gonna have to wait and see here on Elwood City Limits. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode. It's been a great time here, and make sure to stay cool this summer. My name's Will Young, and for Lucas Mancini,
Mom, Arthur's being mean to aliens.
We'll see you next time.